Food works for her.
The bread dressing when you bring in that moment. It's not, gender is fluid too. It's
That the smell memory is strong, but I feel like in terms of embodiment, the actual.
When people talk about art, they're always talking about, oh, that's not to my taste, or what's your cultural taste?
I'm a person. I eat, you eat. Like, I'm a body. It's going into me. That food. Why does that person eat it first, or why did that particular food find its way into this and like?
All right. So as you're kind of wrapping up your little table conversations. Can we just kind of continue the conversation in this way? And I'm just wondering if people can kind of share with the rest of us, since we only got to one table, not even two, which is fine. Can you share a little bit what happened at your table, either something that you said or something that you heard? And you don't have to say the thing that you thought was the best or that you liked, but maybe something that challenged you a little bit or that surprised you, something that stuck and sparked for you. So, yeah. Who'd like to speak? Anybody? Yeah.
Never feel embarrassed.
So ours was the fourth. How does the use of food in the theater highlight the fact that we're all embodied creatures, audience and performers alike, and how does this reminder affect your performance experience? And I think one of the first things that kind of came up and got us started was with embodiment, how food can elicit other sensory experiences that are beyond watching as an audience, and so it can work as something that locates the audience in their body in a way of sensing beyond seeing, but imagining the taste and imagining the feel and the texture and the smell and all of those things that then locate the audience who may have been sitting back in more of a familiar experience as audience watching, forgetting about the body, meanwhile watching bodies in front of them. So that was something that was really interesting.
Yeah, that's great.
We talked a little bit about, yesterday Gretchen Garnett took two of her dancers to the farmer's market at the Civic Center here, and they danced all morning. Every 30 minutes they did their piece. And I couldn't help but think, what a great way to mix food and dance. It's one reason I came tonight, to hear what more people were thinking about food. Just driving there yesterday, Mary knows I try and support the groups as much as I can, so I made a point to go out there and be there for at least two of the shows. And just driving there, it dawned on me that what a great way to have a built-in audience. And other wonderful little things happened. We were talking about three of the tiniest little girls were just mesmerized. They couldn't take their eyes off of these big girls dancing, and I love that because I can almost feel that they're going to grow up and be dancers as well. And some small disappointing things, but things that can be worked on, I think, later. Like there was another young dancer there in the audience, and she didn't even know what was going on. So it caught her by surprise. So I think getting that information out to our community is important. I know we're all busy, but it's the kind of thing that I think we ought to know about. So even if we can't go and we can't speak, even if we can't go and can't, we can at least share it with others. Like tonight, I mentioned to a number of dancers, I'm going to do the lecture tonight on to keep it simple about food and dance. And everyone wanted to know, they all wanted to know what the heck that was about. And that's what others at our table got the same kind of reaction. So I think there's going to be a lot of ways that food and dance, it's coming together, whether we make fun of fast food, which we were doing at Studio Gracias, and Mary's done that. Thank you. And I like all of it. I like the way we attack it in many different areas.
I think this one.
It is.
We had a very feisty and fabulous conversation. Ebony raised questions around gender and the sort of politics of gender and its connection to food, and how most of the examples from tonight were from women. And we had a fabulous conversation about whether addressing things from that perspective was in fact reinscribing a kind of heteronormative norm to see it that way, and whether or not recognizing alternative structures where men did a lot of cooking and prepping might be marginalized by that, and then whether or not actually seeing that way wasn't denying the fact, or wasn't itself speaking from a position of privilege and denying the experiences of so many women who do so much of that unpaid, unvalued labor. So it was very feisty and fabulous. Did I get that right? Does anyone want to add anything more? Yes, please.
I think what I really appreciated was towards the end of the discussion coming back to the idea of however you identify across gender, what is your relationship to food and how that comes out in performance. And that was kind of what you settled on. So.
Great. That's interesting, because I'm like, one thing that I mentioned that I was thinking about and came up for us at this table was, if we had done this particular discussion maybe 5 years ago, I think a lot more people would have thought it would be about either gender roles or, dance and food dysfunction and alienation from food and
Body image.
and that kind of stuff, right? And I feel like that's so not, thank you for trying to keep me safe, not gonna happen. It feels like there's a shift in that's really not so much what this larger conversation is around. It's more around the shift of seeing this sustainable food thing coming into focus and realigning around that. So that just seemed very interesting to me, that maybe there is some global shift that we're feeling a little bit of edges of, and I think that's really interesting.
One of the things that we noticed and found interesting was we started out with the question about the magical or transformative aspects of food, and then it just naturally progressed into a conversation about capitalism in food, which naturally progressed into a conversation about sustainability in food, which ended up being a conversation about embodiment in food. So in the end, we came full circle and sort of looked and said, wait, but we were actually supposed to talk about the magical, mystical, transformative aspects of food. And we did, but how everything is nested and related to each other through this nexus point of food is really fascinating. How it was just a natural, organic progression.
Yeah. Well, I kind of feel like we could stay and talk for hours and eat some more. But maybe now is the time to kind of transition into a slightly more informal relationship to each other. So normally what we do at this point is like open the bottles of wine and stand around and eat silly snacks, but we don't really need to do that because we already opened bottles of wine, right? However, there are silly snacks around. There's more fabulous cornbread. There's more wine, and if you want to get up and mill about and talk to people that you didn't get to talk to, that you need to talk to and want to talk to, that'd be great. Thank you all so much for coming. And
Thank you, Mary.
thank you, Amara, and Marissa, and Jacqueline, and Violet.